So it's that magical time of the year again where summer is in full swing and I am absolutely certain of two things. One, I will flash fry as soon as I step outside, and two, the Steam summer sale is in full swing, meaning I will spend way too much on thousands of games that are enjoying deep discounts right now. So all that being said, let's just go ahead and take a look at some of the games I've already picked up during the summer sale. I'm sure I will end up grabbing more, but for now, these are just some of the games that I was most excited to play, and let's go ahead and kick this one off with a game that has been on my periphery for a while, and always conjured up visions of Undertale, and that would be Everhood. Everhood is an adventure RPG that leans on rhythm game mechanics and features a retro-style aesthetic that falls somewhere between 8 and 16-bit. At the outset, you'll be playing as a wooden doll who wakes up in the forest only to find that your arm's been stolen, and then you have to embark upon a journey to piece together the mysteries of the land of Everhood. Although to be fair, I don't think we're just looking at the doll story here, considering the game kicks off by addressing you, the player, directly, asking you to abandon your humanity and accept immortality. I have no idea what this means, but considering I've very much enjoyed cryptic storytelling in other games, I'm definitely intrigued. But beyond the initial curiosity sparked by the premise, so far I have to say I'm really enjoying the rhythm mechanics, and I way underestimated it initially. When I first started, I set it to a medium difficulty, and after breezing through the first opening battle, figured this would be a bit of a cakewalk. Well, I was totally wrong, and it doesn't take long for the difficulty to ramp up considerably. The playfield looks a lot like the Guitar Hero layout, but rather than aim for what's coming down the lanes, you have to avoid these projectiles either by dodging left or right, or jumping over them. And based on a few of the minigames I've encountered so far, I am positive that there will be even more twists on this formula as the game continues. It's also chock full of quirky humor and colorful characters, many of which have hilarious writing, while others are more obtuse in their dialogue. And as much as I enjoy the core mechanics of the gameplay that's on offer here, I also really enjoy just sort of wandering through Everhood's muted landscape to see what new areas, NPCs, and secrets there are to uncover. With retro-inspired visuals, it's hardly a powerhouse that's going to tax your Steam Deck in any significant way, so you can expect to get solid performance all around. All in all, I really shouldn't have put this one on the back burner for so long, but hey, better late than never, right? Plus, at around 10,000 Steam reviews showing overwhelmingly positive, I'm sure this will be a great experience as I continue to push through Everhood's neon landscape. So if you're a fan of rhythm games or quirky retro adventures, this is one that's probably worth checking out. Next up, staying on that retro throwback train, albeit moving slightly ahead generationally speaking to the 16-bit era, we have Mutant Deluxe. So this game came out like 10 years ago, and I believe I first played it on the Nintendo 3DS, but as retro platformers go, this is a really fun, polished title that does some very cool things visually. Our adventure kicks off with Max hanging out with his granny playing video games when a meteorite crashes nearby. Not too long after, the Mutant Mud's invasion begins, and Max takes off with his trusty water gun and jetpack to save the day. Movement is pretty straightforward. You can move side to side, jump, or shoot, and most enemies require multiple hits to take down. But what looks straightforward at first can quickly become challenging thanks to the ability to hop between the foreground and background, where a depth of field effect helps you stay focused on Max's positioning. Personally, I think this effect was better realized on actual 3DS hardware, but it's a fine solution for other systems that don't have that capability, and ultimately it's a really fun way to approach 2D platforming by adding, well, half a D to it, I guess. It reminds me of how 2D games started utilizing parallax scrolling to provide a sense of depth, which I always thought Castlevania was one of the first games to utilize this technique, but apparently the arcade game Moon Patrol was doing this way back in the early 80s. But anyways, the novelty of tracking 3 separate planes and a platformer aside, Mutant Months is deceptively challenging. Some platformers, like a lot of modern Mario titles, can be really forgiving when it comes to precision jumps or getting enemy timing down, letting you bypass a lot of threats just by running at full speed. But Max definitely isn't Mario, and in turn does not have the ability to just run and jump over a variety of threats at full throttle. Mutant Muds is a slower, more deliberately paced sort of platforming affair, where you're better rewarded for paying careful attention to timing than just rushing. So if you go into it with a puzzle platformer mentality more than a speedrunner's mindset, you should be fine, but it's definitely trickier than its cutesy graphics might initially suggest. Also, I should point out there's a lot of replayability here thanks to Mutant Muds taking a few pages out of Mario's playbook. At the stage selection screen, you're encouraged to collect every gold diamond you find hidden throughout each level, and each level also has secret exits like this slick throwback to the Virtual Boy. Although true to the difficulty that I mentioned earlier, typically these secret exits involve more difficult platforming challenges. They're not impossible, but they will definitely test your skills if you're rusty in this particular genre. Performance is mostly fine on the Steam Deck in so much as I didn't notice any major frame drops, although there did appear to be the occasional stutter, almost like early Mega Man titles when you get slowdown and sprite flickers when there were just too many enemies on screen. I wouldn't say it was enough to be jarring or anything, but it's definitely noticeable. Also, as the deck verified status points out, a controller doesn't immediately work with this game, so you'll want to grab the community layout for it to work immediately, which I completely missed at first, and I thought there was some issue with my controller, but yeah, as long as you grab the community layout, you should be fine. Ultimately, Mutant Mudds was a fun game when I first played it a decade ago, and its platforming chops hold up just fine today. So, if you're looking for a loving homage to the platformers of yesteryear with a respectable challenge to boot, then do yourself a favor and give this one a whirl. Moving on, let's take a look at some retro horror, which I absolutely love to do on this channel, specifically with another Puppa Combo game, Stay Out of the House. And truth be told, I actually bought 5 different Puppa Combo games after they slashed prices on just about every release that they have on the Steam Marketplace, no pun intended. But I decided to check out Stay Out of the House for this video since it looked to be the most polished. The primary goal in Stay Out of the House is, well, to escape a house that you're already in, technically. Kind of a weird name since I don't think you have the option to just not go into the house and still complete the game, since that would sort of defeat the purpose. But anyways, after what feels like 2 different prologues, then you will find yourself trapped in the butcher's home with only your wits and will to survive pushing you on. Right off the bat, I always try to explore the controls in games like this because there is a certain level of jank that I've come to expect, and I wanted to make sure I could perform all of the actions needed. I had some issues with Rewind or Die previously, but thankfully everything here worked exactly as it should. Starting the night shift chapter, I could run with the left trigger at the expense of stamina, jump with A, or crouch with B. The bumpers let you lean left or right while hiding, and curiously clicking the left stick lets you look behind you when in chase, and clicking the right stick lets you zoom your focus in from a distance, which is helpful for getting the lay of the land from the relative safety of a hiding spot. Along the way, you can also collect a variety of items to aid you in your escape, such as healing items, paper clips, or a lighter, which you'll very much need because the environments are just about pitch black here. And honestly, as much as I love the various lo-fi filters you can apply to the game for artistic reasons, this is one of the few instances where it became such a hindrance to gameplay that I ended up disabling them later on. I hated to do it, but I have to be able to see a little bit, you know? Beyond the butcher himself, there are other individuals in the house who might alert him to your presence if caught unaware. Aside from creeping through dark hallways and dingy basements, scrounging for helpful items and clues, you can also duck into the vents or find a variety of nooks and crannies off the beaten path to hide temporarily. It all plays out like a sinister game of cat and mouse, and while you can flee to a limited degree, you'll find that staying out of sight is typically the best strategy. The low-poly PS1 aesthetic definitely won't appeal to everyone's taste, but personally, I love it. Not just for the nostalgia of it as an aging millennial who grew up on the N64 and PlayStation 1, but practically speaking, I find games like this to be scarier than most modern horror games. The scuzzier and more limited the graphics, the more your mind has to work overtime to fill in the gaps. Meaning those moments of uncertain trepidation can quickly ramp up into full-blown terror as you weigh the pros and cons of opening that next door. Puppa Combo just knows how to tap into some of our most primal fears, and that's on full display here, whether it's the uneasiness produced by a stranger asking you if you're working alone, or the terrifying possibilities of a locked door that now inexplicably hangs open. All of this is to say that Stay Out of the House definitely made my skin crawl a little bit. Performance is great on the Steam Deck, and like I already mentioned, the controls were perfect from the jump, so I didn't have to do any fiddling around with key bindings to get everything working properly. About the only real technical issue I had was needing to disable the VHS filter, which normally I would not do since I feel like that's closer to the developer's vision for how the game should be played, but sometimes it's just not that practical. Oh, and one more thing I appreciated about this game, specifically because it's a horror game, is that it does include a baby/exploration mode that will remove the enemies in the game, so you can just sort of vibe with the terrifying murder house and explore it at your leisure. So yeah, if you've played and enjoyed anything under the Torture Star video label before, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but if you're totally new to low-poly horror, I'd say this is as good a place to start as any. Next up, let's move on from horror to some isometric pastel-colored Assassins action with Tokyo 42. Now this was actually recommended by Garde to me over on Twitter. Long story short, I was asking people on Twitter what they thought I should be checking out during the summer sale because originally I was actually going to talk about LEGO Drive 2K or LEGO 2K Drive for this piece, but unfortunately I forgot that was actually from the Humble Choice bundle for last month and not part of the Steam sale, so kinda disqualified. In Tokyo 42, you learn in very short order that you've been framed for murder. A friend swoops in to help you escape from the cops just in the nick of time, and after some debate with your buddy about what to do next, he decides to become your handler and reasons that to find out who framed you, you should become an assassin to learn who wanted you dead. It's questionable logic to be sure, but for the sake of quickly getting to the meat and potatoes of the gameplay, I'm okay with it. Really okay with it actually, because the story combined with its action-packed isometric gameplay makes for an experience that feels completely unique. I've played top-down and isometric games before, and plenty of titles where I'm a dude who's supposed to kill other dudes, but this one feels special in a borderline meditative way when you're not, well, killing people, I guess. After you have the story in place and your motivations are clear, you'll hunt down your first target and gradually get introduced to the game's mechanics. And it feels like it's split into 2 different genres at once. The action itself, where you're mowing down bad guys and chucking grenades, but then it also serves as a relaxing 3D isometric platformer in your downtime between missions. Here you'll spend time getting schooled up on your next target and meander around the city making preparations. And it's pretty calming to do these light platforming challenges that never end up frustrating. I feel like it should be frustrating given how intricate the environments are, but the simple act of navigating the world is definitely fulfilling. And that's helped along a great deal by some brilliant UI design that makes coming to grips with its concepts approachable and a really soothing soundtrack. Plus, there are tons of little quality of life features that make it an effortless world to hang out in. Save points are everywhere, meaning that even if you do miss a tricky jump, you'll bounce back very close to where you left off, and there are teleporters littered across the city so you can quickly get around. They just get triggered automatically, so if you need to hop across town in a hurry, it's pretty much effortless. And it's not just that they've nailed the fundamentals here, but Tokyo 42 also provides a diet sort of Hitman experience where you can really get into the assassin vibe. For instance, you can instantly change your outfit like a chameleon if you have the juice for it. This lets you quickly shake a tail or lose some guards by hiding for a moment, disguising yourself, and then wandering back near the mission area. It performs excellent on the Steam Deck, although rotating the camera with the left and right bumpers does take a little bit of getting used to. But outside of that small hurdle, it's a great experience, and given its tiny bite-sized mission structure, a natural fit for a handheld. Overall, it's been a great and legitimately surprising experience so far, so Garde, thanks again for the heads up on this one. And finally, the last game let's take a look at today is one that had been recommended in the comments at least a few times, although I think about a year ago at this point, and that would be the swashbuckling adventure On Garde. On Garde is, at its core, a whimsical Souls-like. If you've ever played a Souls game, or just a combat-heavy action game where you can be surrounded by goons on all sides as you try to sort out your next move, it's going to feel really familiar really quickly. In On Garde, you'll be playing as a legendary swashbuckler, Adalia de Volador. After your sword is stolen by a mysterious masked man, you'll quickly find yourself on a collision course with the evil Count Duke, and before long be running, jumping, and slashing your way through an imaginative adventure to end his tyranny. At a glance, I was skeptical of this game because I figured it wouldn't put up much of a challenge, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that it does indeed pack a bit of a punch, even if you're an action game veteran. That's not to say you can't scale back the difficulty if you wish, but at medium it definitely kept me on my toes, particularly when I found myself getting surrounded by a bunch of enemies at once. Thankfully, Adalia has a range of tricks up her sleeve. Beyond your standard attacks, parries, dodges, and special moves, you can use the environment to great effect, either by traversing it in creative ways mid-fight to give yourself some breathing room, or you can use elements within it offensively. For instance, you might kick a bad guy into water, blast them with a crate to stun them while you deal with a more immediate threat, or my personal favorite so far, putting a bucket over someone's head to take them out of commission momentarily while you close the gap elsewhere. And I don't know that it has the same finesse as an Arkham game when it comes to juggling combat with multiple foes, but it's certainly serviceable enough, and I found myself having a great time with it. Ping-ponging back and forth between light platforming and exploration, and then sword fights is fun, and the environments surrounding all of the action are bold and colorful. The only thing that kinda trips me up so far is that if you do get backed into a corner and have one enemy advancing with an attack that can be countered, and another enemy advancing with an attack that can only be dodged, then you're gonna have a bad time. All the more reason to stay on the move and take advantage of all the tools at your disposal, and honestly that's probably more of a testament to my lack of skill than a true problem with the design, but it did seem to happen a few more times than I'd have expected. Steam Deck performance is good, but not exceptional. By default it cranks most graphical settings to high, and I was seeing around 30 FPS, which is fine, but I ended up toning most effects down to medium to get a frame rate closer to the 40s or 50s, albeit intermittently. It's definitely a good candidate for locking your frame and refresh rates to 40 to smooth things out. Ultimately, it's not the most thrilling game I've ever played, and I suspect this will be a 3 to 5 hour linear adventure for the most part, but it is fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to more lightweight adventuring with this one that's a little bit lighter in tone than what you would get from an actual Souls game. Alrighty, and that's it for this one. As always, not every game that I've picked up during the summer sale or anything, just some of the ones that I was most excited to play and go ahead and feature here. So, what about you? Have you picked up anything during the summer sale? Anything you would recommend? Please do let me know in the comments below, because I read all of them and basically just end up wishlisting everything that you recommend. As far as what's coming up on the channel, I still plan to do a video on the Vitcher glasses, which I actually have right here, with covers on them. They look completely ridiculous like this. I don't know if I can actually wear them during air travel, but I have to say, quick spoiler warning, they do perform pretty well, so I'm really excited to finish this video. But beyond that, also going to look at some June pickups that happen outside of the sale. And then I did want to make a video about like games for 4th of July. I don't think I'm going to have time to do it though, so I might have to wait till next year, sadly. But the only other thing that I was kind of kicking around was maybe trying a Let's Play style of video where I would basically play a game for like 30 minutes, which is, you know, kind of the way I do research for the games that I feature in videos like this. But if you like that idea, like the idea of me, you know, kind of just playing a game for, you know, an extended period of time, just sort of commentating over it, if you think that would be something interesting to see on the channel, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, again, that's all for this one. Thank you again so much for your time and hanging out here with me on the channel. It really means a lot to me. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.